the opportunity, because I was married for a couple of years before we met. And
I think you were married more than a couple of years.
14.
Everyone's like, what?
So
yeah, a couple of years. I'm like, no, it was a very long time.
I did a bit.
We have Marty and Stephanie in here.
I did 14. I did a hard 14. And
I got to tell you guys this story. Okay, we're in here with Stephanie and Marty, so they're part of this House of Rahmas too, because we're all family. But here's the thing. I'll never forget this. Being friends with Clay. Like, you guys have known Clay for a long time. Audience, you may not have known him for a long time. But this is the funniest thing. We're friends, and like all of a sudden someone says something about his soon-to-be ex-wife, and I was like, what? You've been married?
It's like, hold on.
And I was
wait,
like,
you're actually material?
And he goes, yeah. And I go, how long were you married? He goes, it was a 14-year sentence. I'll never forget that. And I go, what are you were married for 14 years? I was literally in my mind trying to wrap my arms around.
It's like, how old are you?
What is Clay like being married? I actually didn't know his age. I didn't know any of it. I just said, and it didn't occur to me when I met Clay. This is another thing that he was younger than me. It just never crossed my mind. And I was like, so you were married for 14 years? He goes, yeah. I go, to who? I'm like,
well, she had issues.
No, she didn't. And then he goes, I don't have any good memories. And I go, you have to have some good memories. And Clay, I swear, we're friends. So it'd be like him talking to an audience. He goes, nope, I don't. And I go, that's a lie. I said to him, because I have good memories. Like, you can't keep me in a 17 years in a marriage, and especially with the stuff I went through, unless you've got good memory somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Because usually, and I say this all the time as a psychologist, people need to remember the reason they got married and what they loved about the person, because there's always good about a person, which I told Clay this when we were friends. And he goes, not my situation.
Like, nope.
And I go, this is not funny. And he goes, you didn't live there. And then I go, tell me more. I have to share that. He goes, well, I wasn't really allowed to. I wasn't allowed to have friends over. I wasn't allowed to talk to really other people. I wasn't allowed to be on the phone. And I go, wait a minute, how did that work?
But I was able to go outside for 2 hours a day and work out.
He could go outside and work out for 2 hours. Yeah. No.
It's a prison sentence.
No. And so
Lord, I apologize.
Okay, Clayton, stop. So then he comes in, and I literally didn't believe him. I thought he was joking, and the longer I got to know him. So then I'm like, the nicer he is to me, and even no matter what I do, I'm like, wow.
It's like, well, I'll take this.
I will cook something for Clayton, and he's like, this is amazing. And I was like, this is nothing. He goes,
I was like, wow, I can do better.
And he's like, Christina, this is amazing. Like, he acts like I'm like a saint. And I'm like, I just cooked chili, or a hamburger. I'm like, this is not a big deal. And my kids are always like, this tastes horrible. And Clayton's like, I love it.
It's like, good, you guys can leave. I'm going to eat.
But what was it like coming into a family of 4 kids?
You know, the interesting part was the environment.
Was it a prison sentence? Because it was a lot.
Well, I mean, it was coming into a unique environment, right? Because Duquesne was 18. Let me see, it's 9 years, so he was 19.
But we weren't together when you first came in. We were friends.
No, but
you
I knew
stalked us.
I knew what I was coming in for.
Our whole family was stalked. Well, like the kids to this day are like, you kind of stalked us.
I kind of did, but you do what you got to do.
He sat up on the hill in the governor's club.
I did sit on the hill at night.
I swear on my life this used to happen.
I snuck into the governor's club.
The truth is, I would be scared at night, if I'm honest. And I never said that. I never told Clay that. I never told anyone. But we would hear the dogs barking. And Kreider was like, I think Clayton's up on that hill.
and I was.
And then I remember thinking, that would be nice if someone was watching us to make sure we were okay, because a lot of stuff had happened to us. And Clay, your life was probably put on hold. Now that I look back, I feel horrible because I kind of had a regular
You have to make up for it. No, it was the interesting part of, making the commitment long before, there was a commitment. I think the opportunity of, like we talked about in our love episode, is I knew I loved you when I met you. And so, the commitment of being able to have 4 kids. And I can remember growing up, I made my wish list as a kid, you make the top 10 things you want to do in your life. And by the time I was 28, I'd already done 9 of them. And so the key thing was always having a family, right? Because that's kind of the end goal. You want to get married, you want to have an amazing life, you want to have amazing kids. But all the financial success, all the toys, all the stuff that you wanted, you're like, oh, I want to achieve these goals in life. I had already done all that by the time I was 28. And what was crazy is when I was in college, my
And I want to say this because I've had people say this to me. I've had so many people say to me, because of how you position yourself and how you say you grew up in a trailer. And the truth is, your mom's family was eccentric. They had money. Your dad's family didn't have tons of money, but you had a family that were professionals. I mean, they were veterinarians, under veterinarian practice. Yeah. But you were raised in the country like me. And I've had so many people say to me, well, Clayton used you for your money. And I'm like, you obviously don't know who Clayton Thomas is and what he did before me, because what happened was you moved here and you didn't brag about any of that stuff. In fact, I would like to say for the record, he never took me to breakfast, lunch, or dinner.
I let you pay.
Before we got engaged. And before we started dating, and here's what I said to him. I'll never forget when he said, you have to make a decision. You have to decide today whether you're going to date me, and you can't date anyone else. And I said, I can't do that. I want to date different people. We just need to go on a date and see how this goes. And he goes, nope, today, you got to make a decision. And I said, well, then you need to buy a dinner or a lunch. Like, you should buy me something. Like, buy me something. And now anyone that knows this knows you would buy me anything. But at the time,
made up for that.
How many years did it take for you to buy me a meal? I mean, honestly, 3 years?
Hey.
Like, buy someone a meal if you want to go out with them.
Oh, don't move across the country, drop everything that you have, move from Seattle to Nashville.
Pay for a dinner at Uncle Julio's or something.
Well, I did, but
I got so tired of pulling out my credit card.
Well, it was part of the recruiting process because I moved here to help you run businesses, and that was part of the caveat. It was a business, it's a tax write-off anyway.
I mean, Clayton, one of the reasons I didn't date you was I thought, I'm sorry, I have worked so hard and I've paid for my whole life for everything, and I would like to date someone that buys me something for once and is in that they're going to take care of me. So when you never bought me a breakfast, lunch, or dinner or paid for one thing, I thought, why would I date someone that's never going to buy me a meal?
Why would you date someone that moved to Nashville and stayed in an extended stay in Brentwood for 13 months because he didn't know where he was going to live?
Yeah.
But
later, so just so the audience know, Clayton told me, well, I was recruiting. I wanted to make sure you didn't like me for my money. And I'm like, what about my money? I worked really hard.
Yeah, we both did.
Yeah.
I think but those are the fun circumstances of.
I'm glad it worked out that. I'm glad it went down the way it went down, because definitely I did not marry you for money.
Well, and I left.
But as soon as we got engaged, my life changed considerably. Yeah, with being able to see the true picture of your life and who your family was, and then you got to see the true picture of moving into a house with 4 kids.
Yeah, and
that was fun.
And I think the of not.
And they didn't like you either.
No, they didn't like me.
No,
they did not.
It's hard to accept a stepfather. Yeah.
Well, and especially with the circumstances that they came from, right? There wasn't a lot of trust, which is earned, and I think being there's probably 2 sides to it. There's the aspect of being a man walking into a household, of a woman that has kids, which is different than a woman going into a household with a man who has kids, and trying to be the step parent. But you really have to figure out how you can parent by proxy, because you can't come in and try to change behavior. And boy, did I try.
You tried.
that led to, we hate him. It's like, but
you got to earn the respect.
You have to earn respect. You have to have trust, and especially understanding that if the kids are coming from an environment where there's no stability.
Yeah.
Right. And they're and most importantly, safety.
Yeah.
Right. That, if they don't feel safe and they don't feel loved.
Well,
they knew their mom, because you are nothing but love, right? You are the personification of love.
But it's hard for them, and they've told me the problem with me, and they tell me a lot, is that I love everyone. So that lessens sometimes how they feel, because they've been raised by a mom that loves everyone, and they know truly that's how I feel. Like the kids all know that's who I am.
Yep.
You can't hide that from your children. So what I've had to accept is I've got to show them love differently, because I do love my kids differently than anyone else. I mean, they came out of my body.
Yep.
And if they wouldn't have come out of my body, and I've said this many times, and I would have adopted them, I would have loved them just as much through that commitment. But I've had to learn to show them that they aren't just like everyone else, because that hurts them, that they feel like I give other people more attention than them, and that hurts their feelings. And you came in, and you don't love everyone like I love everyone.
No.
So I can tell you now.
I don't tell other people I love them.
You don't.
Because I know how much I love you. I love my kids. I love the kids. I don't love and I tell the kids this, I don't love you the way I love her.
Yeah, you do.
And that is something that's actually really important in a relationship. The kids should understand that, even in a household with their parents, that yes, we love our kids, but I do not love you the way I love your mom.
Well, you can't tell a mother. I'm just telling you.
But a mom's always going to love their kids
more than
anything, because they did come from her.
I don't think they don't love them romantically. They love them. You're right. It's a different kind of love. But I will tell you too the way a mother loves her kid. You love your kids so much. I hope every mother loves their kids this much. I love my kids so much that if you hurt my children, you're hurting.
Yeah. It's the reason you don't fuck with Mama Bear.
That's why anytime you would argue with the kids, like, you can hurt me or you can argue with me, but don't hurt my kids.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, and if you do, I'll just destroy you. I mean, there's no room for argument in that. And it's the one thing of if you look at different families, right? In different cultures, whether it's in Italy or in China and in different areas where the family businesses are quite unique. There's a rule that you don't go after someone's family, because if you do, they will go scorched earth.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's something that's really important to understand.
I think that's I have to be honest, both our families raised us that way.
Yeah.
Like, there's such intense loyalty in both families.
Yeah.
Your father raised you all that way, and your mother.
Yeah, because you have two things. You have honor, you have your word and your name.
Yeah.
Those are the two things you have. And what my dad taught me, he's like, one of those we share, so don't fuck it up. The other one you control. Right? But those are the two things that you have. Those are the two things that you control. So the honor, the trust, the integrity, all of those. I think it's important that we all know where we come from, but we're not a victim of our environment, right? So people have to take responsibility for where you come from, and a lot of that makes you, but it's not an excuse. It's not. It's a
great point. That's, I think, something you've taught the kids. Like, if you can take your experiences and even the bad experiences growing up, and it makes you a better person, you got to stop complaining about it, because your life's on your shoulders. So ultimately, and I think that's one of the best things you've actually taught me that too. I can't feel sorry for myself. It's gotten me where I am today, and if I wouldn't have gone through it, maybe I wouldn't be here today. And I think you showing the kids that, because you didn't have a perfect upbringing. I didn't either.
I don't think anyone does.
No one does. And I get so tired of people
upbringing.
acting like, oh, I'm raising my kids in this perfect environment and nothing goes wrong. That's such a complete lie.
Yeah, they're fucked at that point.
And the pretense of that, and I have to say this because I am a Christian. I said it in an earlier.
Me too, by the way.
Yeah, you too. But here's what I'm going to say.
I like 8-pound, 6-ounce baby Jesus.
But I can't stand it when I go to a church or I go to a Christian school, and they act like they're so judgmental of everyone else, and they have this perfect family. And here's the truth. No one's perfect. No one's better than anyone else. There's only one God. There's only one Heavenly Father, and there's not a perfect family. And the minute you look at a family, and your mom told you this, and think, gosh, I wish I had that family, or gosh, that family's perfect, that's such a lie. There's none of that.
It's what I would joke about at the kitchen table with my mom and my dad and my brother and sister, because we'd have dinner every night. That was a rule. Even with my dad's crazy schedule of being on farm calls, sometimes he was late, but every night we would eat. That's why I love the Schwann's, man, because my mom and dad were running.
I love
running
Schwann's.
Business.
We used to have Schwann's.
We need to order more
Leah
Schwann's.
Wright was like, "Oh my gosh, do you remember when we would
chicken
have
fried steak and
chicken fried
Kiev?
steak and Schwann's, and we thought we were so wealthy."
Oh my God, that's
because that was like a secret. Like in our family, growing up in a farm, like that's like a wealthy man's dinner.
Oh yeah, and man, you get the chicken fried steak with the mashed potatoes and peas.
It was better than bologna fried sandwiches.
Oh, I never got to experience that.
That's what we had at least.
My
once
dad
a
would
week.
do Spam.
Bologna was cheap.
Spam, but if you didn't know, I'll tell you guys a recipe, because Dr. Rahm has a cookbook, but I have my black Irish white trash upbringing. One of the greatest snacks you could ever have is Ritz and mayonnaise. God bless it. She said,
Clayton always talks about that, and I've seen him eat it, and I'm like, come on.
So good. So you want to know I'm country? There you go.
I've never heard of anyone else doing that. Has anyone else in the room? I'm looking at Stephanie and Marty. No one's ever had that, Clayton. And I was raised in the country. That is not a country snack.
No, it's my snack.
Now, Cheese Whiz and crackers.
Oh, Cheese Whiz and crackers. Oh, yeah.
What is the movie Four Christmases with Reese Witherspoon and Vince Vaughn?
Yep.
And they like bring out the platter with the Ritz crackers and the Cheese Whiz, and they're acting so formal. And I remember watching that. I was like, well, I definitely was raised in the country, because that's what we had.
It's like, yep, I know that.
Yeah,
I lived that. But we'd always joke about how jacked up our family was, because where my mom grew up, and my mom grew up in an alcoholic Catholic household. My dad grew up in an alcoholic Protestant household, and it's like, we're dysfunctional. It's like, we have a dysfunctional family. Everybody wants to say they have a dysfunctional family. And my mom's like, no, it's not true. We're not dysfunctional, because in order to say that we're dysfunctional means that there's some family out there that's actually functional. And that's not true either, because we all have issues. That's part of it's part of the human experience. There is no perfect upbringing. The beautiful. Now, there are things that you should never experience in a family. There shouldn't be child abuse. There shouldn't be spousal abuse. There
shouldn't be any kind of sexual misconduct.
All the sexual abuse, anything like that should not exist in any environment. And if it does happen, you should just eliminate those people. But the rest of it, that which doesn't break you will make you stronger. And it's the one thing I try to teach the kids.
I will also say, though, in extreme instances when people are on drugs, that's an impossible situation.
Well, and that too. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's really, like I dealt with children that were from meth homes, and I dealt with children that were sexually abused, and I can just tell you, those are situations that should never happen. My children never had to.
And you worked with the people. You worked with the people that were abusing the kids, so you actually saw both perspectives.
Yeah, I didn't do well with those people.
No, I would. I would not do well with that. They wouldn't make it out of the meeting.
I did understand the drug addiction. I worked with moms that were pregnant, that were heroin addicts or meth addicts, and we would do methadone clinics. And they would cry to me because they did not want to go to the street and do drugs, and they would.
And
they did. They wanted to stop, and they just couldn't. And if you ask me, was it sincere? Yes. And in those special situations, God only has the answer. I have no idea what happens. But in typical homes, you're right. It's not perfect. There is yelling. Like Clay, I've had so many people say to me, I never heard my parents argue. I get so tired of hearing, I've never heard my parents argue. I've never disagreed with a spouse. Sorry about that. That's Coco, everyone. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to tell you, if you are raised in a home where your parents never disagreed, they always agreed on every topic, then someone's not telling the truth.
Someone's lying to you.
Someone's lying. Like, someone's not telling. And they should tell us that as psychologists, like, it's okay to yell. It's okay to argue in front of your kids and to resolve it in front of your kids. That being said, my dad, my father, and my Aunt Hetty told me they never, because my grandfather Rahm came from a home where there were he ended up being an orphan, and raising himself and then becoming a football player, then going to Vanderbilt. But he went to Peabody. He became a superintendent. Just a great story of an amazing man. But they never saw their parents argue, because my grandfather, Rahm, said after witnessing his parents, he refused to argue with my grandmother, but they always did sleep in separate rooms.
You can end an argument with that.
I was like, well, maybe they didn't argue, but sometimes maybe they didn't talk.
Yeah.
They actually loved each other. They both snored. But my whole point is, they were very strong-willed, and it's not that they both agreed with each other.
I think in a relationship, the most important relationships there's